Good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to see this workshop occurring despite the pandemic and the difficulties it caused. It's a major event in the way we see it from the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East Region Climate Change Initiative, which is going on now for more than a year and a half, and it's in the middle of its first phase. Next slide, please. The Climate Change Initiative in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region is now a regional initiative led by the government of Cyprus with the purpose to aid and enhance mitigation action in the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East and adapt to the very dire predictions of climate change impacts in the region. The countries of the region start from the Levantine Basin, from, let's say, Greece, all the way to the Arab-Persian Gulf, from Yemen to Turkey. Next. So almost all climate models predict that this region is going to be the hot spot of climate change. It's a it will be impacted in big ways, and it's a region with a population of 500 million people. It's particularly vulnerable, and as we all know, also politically unstable. Just about everything will be affected by climate change. And here I highlight the health risk factors, which of course is the topic of this workshop that will occur today. Next. Just to give you the latest in snapshot of our prediction, the red curve is business as usual. And as you see, if nothing is done, the modelers predict up to 5 degrees increase in the entire region, which is nothing short of a calamity and disaster of unseen proportions up to now. This, if it happens, it's really, we are dealing with the impacts of, let's say, of nuclear war. It's just everything will collapse. The RCP 2.6 is the more or less Paris Agreement scenario. This will contain the temperatures to about 2 degrees, and this will have tremendous impacts, but it's manageable. Next. In order to pursue this initiative, the government of Cyprus has contacted all governments of the region, and we have set, as part of the scientific aspect, 13 task forces to study the various impacts in each sector, ranging from modeling the impacts, like having results like the ones I showed, all the way to how it will affect the economy, the cultural heritage, and along that also to develop each task force a set of proposals. We call them parts of a policy toolkit that will be presented to the government to further manage and develop. Next. As I said, there are two parts. The yellow is what is going on now, is the scientific techno-economic studies that are pursued by these task forces. This is led by the Cyprus Institute in coordination, of course, with the government machineries, and these will be handed over to the policymakers by the end of this year to start implementation. This will handover will happen at the end of the year. The ministerial meeting will happen 6 months later, and following that, another 6 or several months later, there will be a regional summit to put the actions in place for a horizon of about 8 years. Next. The government has been very busy presenting this initiative to various fora. ranging from the UN General Assembly to COP25, and many meetings in between with regional stakeholders, so as to cultivate and have the intergovernmental conducts well developed when these reports reach them, which, as I said, will be at the end of the year. Next. More than 225 scientists are right now working on various aspects of the initiative from all countries of the region, 3/4 from the countries of the region, and about 25% from international organizations, individual experts, and other organizations outside the region. It's a major effort, as you see, running right now. Next. So, first observations: inadequate data, not adequate to formulate and guide appropriate policies in many cases. There is very low level funding for climate research. There is absence of regional collaborative research projects or policies, and there is insufficient utilization of enabling technologies such as digitalization, remote sensing, etc. Next. So already policy proposals are emerging from the various task forces, and I'm looking forward to receiving more, especially following this workshop regarding the area of health. But already some conclusions are drawn. We need to develop funding schemes for joint climate research and innovation projects in the area. We need to develop regional network of atmospheric, marine, and not only observations. A climate services hub is an advanced concept, and we're soliciting from each task force services that could be provided through this service hub, from studies to proposals to techno-economic studies to good practices, etc. And really, it will be very nice to have, as an outcome of the workshop, some suggestions for services in the health sector that can be incorporated into this hub. We are also recently have a proposal to develop a Natura-like Natura 2000 in EU program for the preservation of biodiversity. Next. And I think I'm concluding. This is my last one. Timeline, I said in October, 14th and 15th, 13th and 14th of October, there will be a major conference in Cyprus. It will be a hybrid. People who can attend should attend. Already we have big commitments from international leaders, from Laurent Fabius to Jeffrey Sachs to the WMO General Director, etc., Prince Hussein of Jordan, to attend this major conference where the handover will happen from the scientists to the policymakers. As I said, there will be the ministerial and then the summit in 2022, and we'll have a program till 2030 with to pursue this initiative. So this is my last transparency. As I said, this is a major workshop in this, from the way we see it from the climate initiative, and we really look forward to receiving the observations, the identification of gaps, policy suggestions to help solve the greatest problem that mankind has faced in its history. So I'll stop there. I think I exceeded my time, and apologies for that. But I thought it would be very important to give you the picture of where we stand right now. Thank you all.
Okay, maybe I should go ahead. Thank you, Costa. So good morning and a very warm welcome to everyone to this workshop. I wish to sincerely thank all the participants for your contributions, both to this workshop today, as well as to the CCI Task Force on Climate Health, on Climate Change and Health, in the EMME region. I particularly wish to thank EASAC for their help in co-organizing this workshop, and especially Nina Hopman, Robin Fears, and Professor Volker Meulen. For without them and their efforts, this workshop wouldn't have been possible. And finally, I want to thank Professor Andy Haynes for accepting to give us this keynote talk on impacts to actions with regards to climate change and health, and in that way set the pace of the workshop. So indeed, if there was a single thing I would personally like to see coming out of this workshop, this would be the understanding of where we currently are with regards to policies and our preparedness to adjust and mitigate the impacts of climate change on public health, on health in general, and what we may need to do in the short, medium, and long-term future. We know that the impacts of climate change on health will be both direct and indirect, and while one could argue that the direct impacts are more or less known and the challenges will be how to mitigate them are also kind of known, the specifics of many of the indirect impacts are unknown, and the best we can do at the moment is to investigate them and generate data to make more informed predictions. So I'm finishing here. I wish to have everyone a very successful workshop, and thank you again for your participation and contributions. And I'll give the baton to Professor Volker Meulen for the welcome.
Okay, thank you, George. Good morning, everybody, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome all speakers and participants of this webinar and to express my thanks on behalf of the InterAcademy Partnership IAP and the European Science Advisory Council EASAC for your participation. But I also want to thank Professor Papanicolas and his colleagues from the Cyprus Institute for organizing with us this important workshop and make it possible that we come together. Both of us have great interest in climate change and health, and independently from each other, we have started some time ago to establish working groups to analyze important aspects of climate change and health. We, as IAP and EASAC, began 1.5 years ago with a global project on climate change and health by involving our member academies in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas to produce regional reports and a global report. These studies are on the way and not finished yet, so that our workshop today is an important meeting in which we learn about climate change and health effects from the countries neighboring the Middle Sea. Since I assume that not every participant today is familiar with IAP or EASAC, let me give you some short description. IAP was founded in 1993 with the idea to bring all national academies of science, medicine, and engineering together, so that their voices are not only heard at home on a national level, but also regionally and, if possible, globally. One of the main objectives of IAP is to provide science advice to policymakers. In 2000, IAP moved from London to Trieste, and at the same time, the national IAP member academies in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas formed regional networks. These regional networks are an active part of our global network. They operate and react to the needs in their region independently, but also cooperate with each other. Taking all together, we have over 30,000 leading scientists, engineers, and health professionals in over 140 countries who are active and engaged in and for IAP. The European network, EASAC, brings together the national science academies of the EU member states, plus the academies from Norway, Sweden, and since January this year from Great Britain, namely the Royal Society from London. EASAC was the first network which started to analyze the effect of climate change and health and produced a report which was the basis for the IAP initiative to invite the other regional networks to cooperate on these important topics. we certainly hope that our regional reports on climate change and health, plus the global report, will be ready next year. And I can only say what has been said by the speakers before me, that we hope that this workshop will actually help us to round up the picture of the situation around the countries of the Middle Sea. And I hope that we will have a very interesting discussion and at the end, some interesting data which can be used for our reports. So if I'm not mistaken, my job is now to introduce Andy Haynes. Is this correct? George?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct, Volker.
Okay, so it is my great pleasure to introduce now our speaker, Professor Andy Haynes. He is a professor of environmental change and public health with a joint appointment in the Department of Public Health, Environment and Society, and the Department of Population and Health. He was previously the director and dean of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and he is known as one of the leading colleagues in the area of climate change and health. So he is a member of a number of very important groups in the world, at WHO and other organizations, and he is a colleague who we all admire about his knowledge on climate change and health, and he is a speaker who is constantly invited to bring his view to the attention of those who needed to be educated, in particular in the political scene. So we are very grateful that he is willing today to give an overview of the situation of climate change and health and its impact. And I would also like to mention that he is a co-chair of our IAP global project of climate change and health. And he was also a co-chair of our EASAC project, where we published together in 2019 the first report of climate change and health in Europe. Andy, the floors are yours, and I thank you very much that you take the time today to speak to us.